I've got no problem with the early period. I mean, it's there was going to be challenges this first year. We'll all figure out ways to get better with it. There is some challenges during this time right now, but that's part of it. There's going to be some challenges anytime. You either whine about them or you embrace them.
News team, assemble!
It's time for the unofficial 40 from SoonerScoop.com. Featuring site publishers Carey Murdoch and Josh McCuistion, along with videographer Eddie Radosevich. It's the unofficial 40 on SoonerScoop.com.
All right, welcome in, everybody. It is time for another edition of the unofficial 40 with the SoonerScoop.com crew. Appreciate you guys joining us just before the holidays here, and maybe after the holidays if you're listening to this after Christmas. So welcome in. It's another packed episode of the Sooner Scoop, and Josh McCuistion is joining us from his home base where he's got a sick kid, a new kid that's hiding from the sick kid. He had to go and get her from school on signing day. It has been a treat for Josh McCuistion this week.
Yeah, this has been I've literally never had a signing day go off that was really ever a problem. I've always been really lucky. Nothing's come up. But this one, it was just like I had to pay the piper. So everything came due. 5-day-old baby. Get called at lunch that my kiddo's got a 102 at school, so I got to go get her. Tiffany can't drive because she's still on all kinds of pain medication, that kind of thing. So I have to drive her to our doctor's appointment. We spend about an hour and a half there. Drive back. The medication's not ready when we get there, so I have to wait. So I was pretty much away from my computer from about 11 until probably 6:15 that day. I mean, it was just, it was crazy.
There's also a man here that even Josh has not heard a peep from, and it is one Eddie Radosevich, because he looks like the time that he threw up in my car at the Fiesta Bowl right now. You're not going to throw up, are you?
No, I'm not well, though.
But it's not because you're sick.
No, just extremely hungover. I mean, he
not
is. Well.
I feel bad just looking at him, Josh.
I laid in bed and moaned for 30 minutes this morning.
Oh.
I did radio with Toby Rowland this morning at 8 and don't even remember talking.
So you did franchise yesterday. If you filled in.
Yeah, and I'm doing it again today. Today is awful.
Today at 3, you got to go do it again.
And then the basketball game at 6. I might kill myself at 9 o'clock tonight. There's a good chance.
Well, at least you got a nice night of partying in last night.
Yeah, it was good. It was a fun time.
Was it family or friends?
Just friends. It was just a Christmas get together, but
where'd you guys get together?
It was over at a buddy's house.
Oh, okay, at a house.
So and
it got a little crazy.
Yeah.
What was the drink of choice that did you in?
All of it.
You did beer, liquor, everything?
Yeah, just all of it. It's not good, though. I would rather be Dick Enberg right now.
Eddie, you can't invite all the ethnicity to the party, man. That's when it's going to go bad every time.
The what?
You can't invite all the ethnicities to the party. You can't have the Russians and the Mexicans and it's going to go bad.
And the Canadians and
Yep, and especially the Kentuckians. That will get real bad real fast.
Yeah, it's not been a good Friday.
Did you mix your liquors?
I don't know. I mean, a
lot of shots?
No. Just not feeling well. Not feeling well today.
So this is akin to the first time you experienced the hospitality suite at the Fiesta Bowl.
Maybe.
Did you puke this morning?
No. I don't throw up very much.
Just in my car when it's brand new.
Yeah.
Oh God.
It is.
I didn't drink a bottle of tequila last night.
I mean, that's how good Eddie is at his job, is that he survived throwing up in my brand new car. Like right on the door, a tan interior, and it was
leather.
It was blue Powerade everywhere, and it came out blue.
That's awful. Eddie sounds like the kind of guy that should have like a cig hanging out of his mouth. It's not
really
even
should.
lit.
Yeah.
Like it's just hanging there on his lip. Like I'm just too pissed off to even light this thing.
I would throw up right now.
I think
if
at
was around
a different time, Eddie would always have a cigarette. Like Eddie would be, if this were like the 70s, I think Eddie would be at post-practice smoking while interviewing people.
I might, yeah. I might.
So yeah, it's just been a crazy week. I mean, throwing the side, you heard Lincoln Riley talking about early signing day. Really, for the most part, went off without a hitch. I mean, obviously, you would like for Tavion Thomas and everybody else to be in better position academically. You'd like for the Jordan Austin thing to kind of work itself out by now. But really, Josh, Oklahoma State, I mean, they had 22 commits, signed 22. Oklahoma didn't quite have that, but it's not far off from just pretty much the perfect signing, outside of maybe not landing a big guy here or there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there was a hope that maybe a guy like Deshaun White would jump on board.
Pull the trigger.
Trey Brown, those guys, you have some hope there. But really, I mean, I think from what I can gather, I know people that are listening that maybe haven't read some of the things we put on the board. The three guys that didn't sign, Trevion Johnson, Tavion Thomas, and Jordan Austin. With Trevion Johnson and Tavion Thomas, I expect those guys to be part of the class in February. I think it was just a matter of, I think in Trevion's case, they're still waiting for a test score to come back at the number he needs to hit. I think that's as simple as it is. And I get the impression that it's very close, like a point or two. So that's something I think they're going to feel fine about. And I think it'll maybe be even better if his first semester at Brenham is good. So I think that's going to be okay. Tavion Thomas, this was really the first I'd heard of it, so I have a reason to think he's probably going to be okay as well. With Jordan Austin, I think everybody that listens probably should kind of know the reality of this right now. I think he's looking to go in a different direction. I think Oklahoma's looking to go in a different direction. And at the same time, Oklahoma's trying to do right by the kid. They're trying not to leave him just out in the dark and say, hey, best of luck to you. They're trying to help him find a place that'll work, and so everybody can kind of end this thing amicably rather than having some kind of nasty thing, which is even more important. I mean, obviously, we're not going to act like, you's just doing this out of the kindness. The kid's from Lancaster. I mean, they don't want to upset that area of Dallas, really, and anybody in Texas, but you want to make sure that area of Dallas is happy, and they're trying to do their part to make sure this ends okay.
Josh, you and Bob had kind of did kind of your awards. People I know, people say this all the time, like, why don't you guys sell yourselves more on the podcast? We're not trying to turn this into infomercial. We want it to be a podcast with information. But, it is a subscriber. We have things that are subscriber-only features. And one of the things I thought that was really cool that you and Bob did was kind of, because you see the lists, you see the stars, all these same, you can read it. You can try and ingest it, but really it doesn't really tell you a whole bunch, just knowing that the guy was the 36th player in Texas, or that he was a 3-star or a 4-star. And you guys kind of went in and talked about guys individually, sleepers of the class, personalities of the class, things like that. It's a great way to kind of get a feel for who really stands out in this class. But Josh, let's just talk about the class overall. I think everybody's, even the coaches and you guys, and I knew this just talking to you guys so much, I think Jalen Redmond is probably one guy in this class that he may not have all the accolades that other guys do, even around the country, but he's a guy that I think everybody can see developing into something really special.
Yeah, with Jalen, it's one of those situations where, like we've talked about on the pod, dating back months now, probably even a year, if he would have been a guy that played as a sophomore at Midwest City, he is a guy that would have he'd be in the Army game or he'd be in the Under Armour game. It's just one of those things where this is the day and age now where a lot of these kids are already into that game or already signed up for it by the time they're, at this point in their junior year. I mean, those rosters are largely set already. And I think that's how that worked out for Jalen. So he didn't get a lot of the early accolades. And once that happens, it's kind of tough to catch up. Once you kind of fall behind, you never really get back on level footing until you get to college, and then everybody's just starting from square one again. So with Redmond, I see a guy as an early enrollee, a signee, and a guy that is so physically developed. I mean, he's not a guy that you're going to worry about. Can he handle the physicality? Is he a guy that's going to be okay in Jerry Schmidt's weight program? He was the guy I actually picked in that article you're talking about to be kind of Schmidt's pet. Like Jerry Schmidt's going to love him. This is a kid that'll put in the work. He'll do all the stuff he needs to do. And he comes from a program in Midwest City that's won a lot of state titles in powerlifting. So he's very comfortable in that scenario. So to me, if you were going to bet on one guy to make a real impact next year for Oklahoma, he would be the bet, in my opinion.
And one of the things I think, just this class is you always kind of have, one of those guys. Justin Fields was that guy that kind of reaches out to everybody, gets everybody together, maybe even gets the group DMs or the group text started amongst guys. And you guys both had your Mr. Congeniality. Was that the Mr. Congeniality Award?
We went with class president for him.
Or class president.
Yep.
That was kind of Patrick Fields. Both of you guys were on the same page there.
It was the only one we agreed on. I mean, and I just don't know how you really pick anybody else. I mean, Pat is one of those guys that, guys, people could go back and listen to our pod back in April when Josh Proctor had picked Ohio State. Ron Tatum had picked Texas. A couple of guys had left the class. I mean, there were so many things that seemed to be going badly for Oklahoma. And Pat never wavered. There was never any, well, what's Patrick Fields going to do? Everybody knew he continued to recruit guys. And then almost instantly, once you had that changeover from Bob Stoops to Lincoln Riley, and that's not to say those things are directly correlated, but when you had that change, Pat was there working on Ron Tatum. So Ron Tatum flips, and they get everything, all that momentum they had going in the summer when I think they had, at one point it was like 9 commitments in like a 6-week period. I mean, they just went crazy in the summer, and he was a big part of that and had laid a lot of the foundation for that, in my opinion.
Let me ask you, Eddie. I mean, you get out more than anybody and film kids and get stuff for Scoop HD, looking at kids of all the. I mean, you got 6 Oklahoma kids. I tell you what, Lincoln Riley talked a little bit about just kids in the state as well, and just how well. Of course, they didn't get Josh Proctor, as Josh just mentioned his name.
That was really the only bad thing that happened in state, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, and I thought the Brey Walker thing, just in terms of that seems like something that could have gone so wrong for Oklahoma. Like if they made a misstep here or there, like they could have found themselves on the outside looking in with really no, nothing that they could have done about it. But here's Lincoln Riley talking about the Oklahoma class.
Really proud of how well we did in the state of Oklahoma. I think it was a really, really strong year talent-wise in our home state here, and really thrilled about the 6 guys that we signed from this state. They all got a chance to be impact players, big-time players that I know will represent our home state well.
And let me, Josh, ask you about one guy. And Eddie, you were up for the Union Broken Arrow game, one of the biggest games of the year. It was televised on ESPN. What do you guys think about Jordan Kelly as a defensive tackle, a guy that really is their only true, defensive tackle prospect so far in this class?
A lot better senior year than he had junior year.
Yeah,
at least a lot more impressive. He had a couple sacks in that Broken Arrow game where he just threw a guy down with one hand.
Dominated.
It was fairly impressive. So he's a guy that I think, it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up at OU. I don't know if he's necessarily going to be the next, great defensive tackle at Oklahoma, but I think he's certainly going to be a guy that's serviceable.
That's kind of where I would see him. And if you'd asked me this 6 months ago, I don't even know that I would have gone that far. I know people kind of think, serviceable. Well, not every guy you recruit is going to be a superstar. It just doesn't work out like that. But Jordan is a guy that I do think has some upside to him. But I feel like he's limited the basement. He's not going to be – there was a time when I thought, man, he's going to wash out. Like, he just won't buy in. He's not going to do the stuff he needs to do. Oklahoma is just not the kind of place where you can come in and be – 75% invested. That's just not the way that program operates. And so I just think he'll be okay. As a senior, I saw a lot of the same good flashes. Like Eddie talked about the Broken Arrow game when he was really dominant at points. The thing that was so much better for him, in my opinion, was you just didn't see the lulls where you would go 2 quarters and didn't even realize there was a Division I defensive lineman on the field. Like that didn't happen this year. And so even when maybe he wasn't making the big plays, well, he was getting doubled or he was getting chipped. Like there was a reason for it rather than just he's tired or he's not giving max effort. Whatever the case may have been in years past, you didn't see that from him this year. And I think that was a huge step forward and a sign that he understood that he needed to address that in his game.
One of the guys I mentioned, Brey Walker, I thought it was interesting. Lincoln Riley talked a little bit about him on signing day as well, and specifically his commitment to OU.
Yeah, he actually committed in the locker room after we beat Oklahoma State in 15 to win the Big 12 championship. We got in there, we were already, celebrating, going crazy. And I remember, I think Bill and I checked our phones, and on Twitter, his dad had sent us a message saying, Brey Walker's committing to Oklahoma tonight. So as excited as we were even more excited then. And so he was the first one. And obviously a national recruit, talent-wise for an offensive lineman, you're not going to find any better. And another guy that made an early commitment, had an offer from just about every other program in the country and stuck with us. And so he's gonna have a great opportunity there. He's got big time talent. We've really got a chance to know him and watch him grow here over the last few years. I know Bill's really excited to get him in that O-line room and get to work.
And he mentioned sticking with OU. And this kind of for both of you guys. How surprised were you that he because I think when it first happened, I think maybe it was just me being pessimistic, but I thought, well, we'll see if that sticks.
As far as what?
If the commitment sticks. Like if he doesn't, end up going other places and getting enamored with something out of state or things like that.
I mean, even leading up into last week, there was nowhere I figured that he was going to go other than OU. Pretty much.
You figured there was nowhere else he was going to go.
Right.
So
right.
you're saying this whole time you never thought that there was a chance that he would go somewhere besides OU?
No. I didn't think so, at least. I mean,
even with as involved as his dad seemed to be and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but I mean, he said he wanted to take his official visit still, even after he committed.
I didn't think that he was going to go anywhere. You don't grow up 20 minutes from Norman and then go anywhere else.
Josh Eddie's just going to shit on my line of questions. How about you?
I mean, Josh, did you really think that he was going to go to Texas A&M and join a cult?
The thing that I expected him to do,
I don't understand why anybody goes to A&M. By the way,
I don't either.
It's like the anti-UCLA. You don't understand why they're going there, but at least at UCLA, there's beautiful girls, it's flashy, and you're going to live in Los Angeles. You're going to go live in the sticks, an hour and a half from any major city. Like where Waco is actually a destination trip. Like
and College Station is not bad. Like a fun town. Like
no,
and their campus corner isn't really particularly special.
Oh God, but they love the Dixie Chicken, man. Everything's about that. And I don't get it. But
Stillwater's cooler than College Station to me.
Oh, no question. I think Stillwater's underrated. Stillwater's a fun town. Anyway, as far as Brey. When he committed, I thought he would stick with Oklahoma over the long haul. I thought he would take more visits. I thought he would show more interest in other schools. I thought there would be more of that. But really, I mean, you look at it, the only coach who ever got him to visit anywhere was Jimbo Fisher. He visited Florida State and he visited Texas A&M.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that's about. I don't know if there was some connection that I just didn't understand or didn't know about. But that was the one head coach who ever got him to take an official visit anywhere else. He didn't. And this is a guy. This isn't like any of the other guys in Oklahoma's class, probably save TJ Pledger. He could have visited anywhere. I mean, Alabama, you name it, Clemson, they'd all gladly taken a commitment from Brey Walker. So it's just interesting that never happened. And even when it did, like I know, we'll spare all the source arguments. But even when the A&M thing happened, and even when everybody said, oh, he's not going to sign, blah, 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 and they just started panicking, I never felt like, okay, OU's in real trouble here. Like, it just didn't feel that way to me, talking to people, because there had always been a thought that maybe he wouldn't sign in the early period, and that really changed when Bob broke the news, I think, in late November. So that was the first time I'd heard any conversation that he was going to sign early. So I guess I just didn't take it that seriously, and that's why, it just like I said, for me, it never felt like there was any option that was going to rival OU when it came down to where are you going to sign your letter of intent.
Now, I think people that watched the 3A championship game yesterday, it was on Fox Sports, they saw Jaqualine Crawford and just the just explosiveness that he has. But back to kind of you and Bob kind of handing out your awards for this class. Josh, you picked Crawford kind of as your game changer, where Bob went with Kadarius Taylor, the kid out of Memphis. I'm just curious, kind of, what it is for both of those guys that you see. I mean, we know Bob's not going to just throw out some stupid name, but what is it about both of those guys? And do you agree that he would be maybe your number 2, I guess, Taylor?
I was a little surprised that Bob went with Kadarius. Now, I'm a guy that, was one of his earlier fans. Like, I liked his junior stuff. A lot of people kind of jumped on when they saw his senior stuff that's good and showed the improvement you would expect. And Bob, we haven't been with Bob that long. I wouldn't claim to know Bob's feelings, but it did surprise me a little bit and I guess it should be noted, just for, the full honesty, I kind of made up these groups and then I sent it to Bob. Well, I know exactly what I'm thinking of when I make up these particular topics. Like game changer.
All right, we had a little technical glitch, and we lost Josh there because my internet went out. Thank you, Cox Communications. I don't know what it is. It's something in the middle of the afternoon. I always lose internet for like a few seconds.
It's the impending ice storm that's moving in.
So, Josh, we were talking about, man, I'm scared. I'm a little worried. Do you have to travel?
No.
You don't? You're just staying in the area?
Yeah, it's just Oklahoma City.
So, Josh, we were talking before my internet decided to kill itself. I mean, it did what Eddie wants to do right now. And we were talking about, you sent the categories to Bob for your award stuff, and we were getting ready to talk about game changer. You were surprised that he picked Kadarius Taylor as his.
I was, and like I said, it was. You can look at game changer a lot of different ways. With Kadarius Taylor, I see a guy that is very twitchy in the open field, kind of almost a poor man Sedarian Lamb is kind of how I would look at him. Kind of a long, lean guy, very quick-footed, bigger than I have not seen him in person, but watching him on tape, I'm guessing he's a little bigger than most people think. I think he's probably in that 6'1.5", 6'2" range, and probably like Lamb doesn't have that 4.4 blow the top off of the defense kind of speed. But he's pretty quick, and like I said, I see a lot of ability for him working in that middle passing game that Oklahoma and obviously most spread teams really love. So I think he's going to be a very good player. I think that receiver class in general is a little undervalued. I think there's a lot of good talent. But when I watched Jaqualine Crawford, and I was looking it up, actually, that little glitch in our timing worked out nicely for me because I wanted to go back and check it. As a sophomore, almost 2 years ago, Jaqualine Crawford won state 3A in track in Texas, running a 10.53 as a sophomore.
Wow.
So you're talking about a kid that with the training and everything else that he can learn to do, he's probably around a 10.4 guy. I mean, so you're just talking about speed that is very, very rare. And, those are the guys that, like I said, as opposed to Kadarius Taylor, he does run that 4.4. He can outrun almost anybody on a defense. And so I think that's what you're talking about when you look at that next line of guys to follow a guy like D.D. Westbrook, follow a guy like Marquise Brown. He could be that next in line of those type of guys that allow Oklahoma to continue to have that vertical passing game that has made them so dangerous the last few years. And funny enough, just kind of as an aside, D.D. Westbrook comes from Cameron Yo in Central Texas. Jaqualine Crawford, as everybody saw, he's a Rockdale product. Those two teams are arch rivals. I mean, they play every year. It's called the Battle of the Bell. It's a big deal. I was actually at that game this year. I had no idea what a big deal it was, but literally listened to the Rockdale fan base beat the hell out of their cowbells. I felt like it was a Mississippi State game. So it was crazy. It was a fun game to watch, but it's kind of funny that those two could kind of be in that same line of player when they come from two schools that just hate each other.
That was the first time that Rockdale had beat Cameron Yo in a long time, wasn't it? If I remember correctly.
It was they'd beaten them 2 straight years. And that was the first time that had happened in like 46 years or some crazy thing like that. And then,
because I remember Jaqualine, you talked to Crawford after the game, and I remember him talking about that.
And it
just
did.
how big of a deal it was.
Exactly. And, Eddie, you know how it is. You go and interview these guys after the game. So many times these elite guys, they're almost separate from that kind of stuff. It's just, I'm going out here and I'm going to be a star. I'm going to make big plays. They don't really care about the things like that. But you could tell in that interview that it mattered to Crawford. Mm-hmm. Like, it was a big deal for him to beat Cameron Yo, because for those that don't follow Texas high school football, Rockdale and Yo, they may be big rivals, but it's kind of like Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. Like, sure, Oklahoma State's a good program year in and year out, but most of the time they're going to lose to Oklahoma, and most of the time Rockdale's going to lose to Yo, because Yo is one of the premier programs in the state of Texas at that level. So they are always competing for state titles. I think prior to this year, they had played in 5 of the last 8 Texas State championship games at their level. I mean, they're a monster. So that kind of puts in perspective for you of what that game meant to Rockdale, and obviously how big yesterday was, winning their first state title in over 40 years.
Let me ask you, because, I mean, Taylor is really intriguing. Just watching him yesterday, some of the big explosive plays he had. Of all the skill talent coming in this class, do you see a special team standout that you could make the call on right now?
The guy that I like, and it's funny because we were doing that story, and I don't think it had ever really occurred to me to have that thought process. But the guy that is the one that sticks out is Delarian. I think I heard Kerry Cook say it, and I think that's the actual right way to say it, because he told me once, and I never could put it to memory, but I'm pretty sure Delarian Turner Yell.
And he also goes by Trey Turner Yell.
Yes, yeah. So if you guys want, you know me though, I can never take the easy way. He is a guy, like I said, very fast, very physical. I mean, you watch his tape. There's probably no defensive player in Oklahoma's class, maybe save Jalen Redmond, that is more fun to watch. He just kills people all the time. He's one of those guys that you're like, it's kind of like Brandon Everidge. Like, that's a really good example. He doesn't care about what it's doing to his body. He just makes humongous hits after humongous hits, and you're pretty sure he's going to dislocate a shoulder one of these days.
So you're talking about a guy that's going to make tackles. That's going to be a force.
Yep. And he's got the, and a lot of guys like, you can love, they're so physical and violent, but they don't really fit into special teams. Turner Yell, you could put him out there as a gunner. He could be a lot of different things, and he's going to fit just fine. So he's one of those guys that, like I said, with Redmond, I think he'll make an impact on defense. I think it'll be really interesting to see if OU can find a way to keep him off the field on special teams, because that seems a really natural fit for him.
Well, yeah, and even before they switched things up, they've had Trey Brown and Trey Norwood playing special teams this year already. So, I mean, they're still sticking to that. We're going to play true freshmen on special teams, even if they're not starting.
Kerry, and you would know better than me, but that always feels like that's just something they see as a good way to get a young guy comfortable. Like, okay, we got him some snaps, even if it was special teams. He was out on the field and kind of was part of things, so maybe the jump when he was a sophomore, we need him on offense or defense, isn't as big.
Well, I think it's how physical guys are, too. Like, Trey Brown is a physical guy. Yeah. Trey Norwood, not so much, but I think his speed is like Parnell Motley. They didn't play him as a freshman just because he needed to get bigger. I mean, he wasn't big enough to make an impact on special teams, which I mean, Delarian seems like a guy. He's a little thin, isn't he? I mean, he needs to get a little weight gain before next year if he's going to play.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, he'll need to get bigger and put on some weight and those kind of things. I think when people see that 5'10", 160, I've never sat down and said, well, what do you weigh, my man? But when I saw him, even before the season, I saw him in 1 week before the season began in late August, and right actually before the whole hurricane disaster hit Houston. I would have put him at somewhere around 175, probably in that ballpark. So he's a little bigger than everyone thinks he is. And I can tell you, I've had a conversation with a few sources that were more than happy for everyone to believe that he was a little bitty guy that wasn't going to hold up. They're like, let everybody believe that. He's bigger than people think he is. Now, I'm not saying he's Roy Williams. He's not even Stephen Parker. But he's bigger than you think he is. And I think with a little time, I think he could end up being the best player in that secondary group. Now, barring, of those who have already signed. Now, there's some things still in play for Oklahoma that could change my opinion on that. But I think Turner Yell is one of those guys that we'll look back in 4 or 5 years and think, look at his tape. How did everybody not realize he was going to be a really good football player, even if he's not the projectable, obvious NFL kind of guy that everybody always wants?
Eddie, need any water or anything? You dehydrated severely over there or anything?
No, I'm good.
Pedialyte?
Yes, I need Pedialyte.
Did you have some of that this morning?
No, I just have you
weren't prepared.
9 Advil.
Eddie, a guy that you went and saw, quite a bit. I want to talk about Tanner Mordecai, the quarterback that OU brought in this class.
Playing for state championship Saturday.
Also, guys, I kind of thought it was interesting. Tell me if this is an indictment or not. I'm sure the fans would say, "Oh, it absolutely is." But I think we all kind of wondered, once Cam and Rising flipped to Texas, like maybe we could see him end up flipping somewhere else too, especially when things didn't start out great for Texas, and they were more. And it looked like Sam Ehlinger was going to be a guy that got entrenched, and then he has concussion issues. But is it an indictment on a kid when a team has that shitty of a year, and yet you're just like, oh, I'm still all in?
As far as,
but I mean, if Oregon hadn't, even Taggart decided at the last. It never seemed like Oregon made any traction with the kid.
Yeah.
When Chip Kelly came into UCLA, you thought, okay, maybe something happens there, but. I know his dad and Tom Herman have a prior relationship.
I was really surprised that they ended up signing both.
Casey and
both Casey and Rising. I thought,
and both of them just seemed locked in.
Yeah, I thought there was no way that they both ended up at Texas, and sure enough, they did. I don't know. It was I thought it was pretty funny though. I thought Lincoln Riley threw a little shade at him on signing day, just saying that it worked out best for both sides.
I don't remember him saying that.
About Mordecai. Well, he just said that.
Oh, about Mordecai. Well, I asked him.
He said it worked out, for the best, that, and he was referencing Rising, that he decommitted, and then that allowed him to go after Mordecai, who he absolutely loved.
Yeah, and that was the other thing. Like, there were a lot of comparisons made to Mordecai, like you mentioned, is in the state championship. There were a lot of references made to his competitiveness and how, he reminded him of Baker from that standpoint. You had Baker saying some things earlier, when we talked to him last about, competitive and watching Jake Fromm and how competitive he was and how impressed he was and reminding him of himself. And so I'd asked, Lincoln just about quarterback recruiting, having guys that are trying to fit into, because guys, this is to me what's happened is, and I've said this before. I think somewhere along the line, quarterback recruiting has gotten broken because you've allowed these guys, you've allowed yourself to only commit to one guy every year, and these guys are trying to find the spot where they fit in, where a guy's going to graduate, and then I can come in and start after him, which that's not unusual. But at the same time, it's one of those deals where you wonder, just like Baker Mayfield, like he came to Oklahoma, he's like, screw Trevor Knight. I know he's going to be a Heisman favorite, but I want to go to Oklahoma. I'm going to compete for that job. And he beats out Trevor Knight, wins the Heisman, and it's like Sam Bradford. He didn't care that, they had certain quarterbacks here or Rhett Bomar or whatever. He was going to come in and compete for the job, and he ended up being a great quarterback. Like, those guys have a competitive spirit that allowed them to become great players. And I've always kind of wondered if coaches take that into account and they think, this guy's looking more for, an easy way to get the job than he is just coming in and working for it. And I asked him kind of about that with Tanner Mordecai.
I think measuring, or trying to evaluate a guy's competitive desire and how hot that fire burns inside of him is critical at all positions, and probably most at that one. Some guys show it in different ways. There's guys that are outward with it like Baker. There's guys that are fiery competitors, but you don't always see it, on the outside, or it's, shown a little bit different ways. So, no, it's certainly something we look for. I mean, you better be a competitor at that position, and you better be confident in yourself. And so, absolutely. I know at the quarterback position, if a guy's asking me too many questions about the depth chart, I probably got the wrong guy.
And I mean, that was just kind of, I was kind of glad to hear him say that. Like, don't be chasing depth charts. I mean, just find the place that's the best fit for you, and don't worry about who's there. Am I wrong on that philosophy?
No, I don't think so at all. I think you want a guy like that, especially at the quarterback position. It's not scared.
Think with a quarterback, I mean, to me, I want to know who my offensive coordinator is. I want to know who I'm going to be around. And, I'm much more worried about what's the offensive line class like? What's the receiver group like?
Yeah.
Those are things that are going to affect me more because if I'm the best, I'm going to go win the job. Like, forget it. I mean, look, you guys brought up Jake Fromm. Jake Fromm went to Georgia knowing Jacob Eason was a true freshman that started and at times looked pretty good last year for UGA.
And they just got the kid that was number 2 behind Trevor Lawrence or whatever.
Yep.
That actually
Fields
outperformed him at the Elite 11 or the 7-on-7 or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know there's a lot of people that think he's better than Lawrence. We talked about it way back in the summer. I thought Lawrence might have been the best looking quarterback I've ever seen at the 5-star when we saw him in Indianapolis. He was the throws he makes and the way he does it, and he looks like sunshine. I mean, like, you got to get an extra point just for being that. He's amazing. Like, he's freaking good.
Got a weird head though.
Huh?
He's got a weird head though.
Oh, you and your head fascination. I don't know.
Unathletic.
I wouldn't mind seeing him get hurt, but that's just me.
You like Fields better?
Yeah, probably.
And Eddie, to be fair, Eddie saw more of it that day than I did. I had to leave a little bit early that day to catch a flight.
Oh, so. I mean, but they were both extremely good. I mean, it's hard to choose between the two because they are just that. They were far and away the two best quarterbacks there. There's no doubt about that.
Well, and did you guys see the huge news on the West Coast?
I don't know.
Number 1 overall player in 2019, JT Daniels from Modern Day, is actually going to graduate a full year early. And he's going to be on USC's campus in the summer.
How does that work? How do you graduate
5-star 2018 class?
How do you graduate an entire year early like that?
I don't know. I mean, my last semester of high school, I was taking like office aid and I had an open period. And
just get it all out of the way. You don't take those electives.
Because I'd taken like, calculus and chemistry and all that stuff.
Surprising though. I don't know.
But I mean, like, for me, like, that would be confusing, Carey, because like English 4 and stuff like, stuff that you did year by year. You took English 1 your freshman year, English 3 your junior, so on and so forth. But I don't know how you did that. But I mean, I guess he could just go take correspondence or whatever and make it work.
Well, these kids now, they take these, AP classes, so they're so far ahead.
Well, they start their freshman year with the idea that they want to get out early. Oh,
especially a kid like that. I mean, he knew he was somebody important early on.
But back to Tanner Mordecai.
Sorry,
Eddie, no, that's fine. Eddie, you've seen him a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's a guy. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, he's kind of one of those guys. If he wasn't going to Oklahoma, he probably would have been one of the hotter quarterbacks in this region over the last 3 months.
You just don't go on the run that he has been on throughout his senior year and putting up the numbers that he has and leading midway to an undefeated season and playing for a state championship on Saturday.
And like you said, the numbers are huge.
Every game he's put up big numbers. It seemed like every game he was accounting for 6 or 7 touchdowns. And I would think, and I think Riley even hinted at it on Wednesday, was the fact that he has, I don't know how many offers that he has not put out there because he was committed to OU, but it sounds like he had some interest from other schools and just pretty much told him, don't waste your time, I'm going to Oklahoma.
If you're going to compare him to a college quarterback, Josh, who would it be?
Oh, that's a good question. I want to say, and while I think about this, I'm going to buy myself a minute. He had 71 touchdowns accounted for, and he has a game left to play.
Jesus.
That's and for people, and I'm one of them. I thought Mordecai was a very, he's a pocket passer. He's going to sit back there and pick you apart. He rushed for 1,100 yards this year, 75 yards a game.
Yeah.
Like, that's amazing. And so I think it's a lot like, I don't know that he'll have Baker's open field ability or anything like that, or Baker just improvisation is just unbelievable, but kind of like Baker on an athletic level. Like, he's a guy that can go pick up a first down with his feet. He's not going to have to do it with his arm all the time. He's a guy that can make some plays with his feet and can help OU in that way. As far as a guy he reminds me of, maybe Colt McCoy a little bit, like maybe some of that.
Yeah, I could see that.
Just not a guy that wows you in any one thing he does, but the sum of the parts are really good.
Doesn't have great size, but he has
he's
sneaky
bigger
athleticism.
than you think, though. I think
he is.
But he's just not a 6'5" guy. Like, you can't say he's a more athletic Mason Rudolph. I mean,
no,
Mason Rudolph is 6'5", legit.
Yeah,
but he's a legit. I would say he's 6'4" for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's
we got him listed at 6'2", right? Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
I think he's bigger than 6'2".
No, that's about where I'd have him.
You
Eddie.
think?
He's right around that range. I mean, I will say the thing that surprises you when you're next to him, he's sturdier than you think he is. Like,
Okay,
he's
that's a
broad.
good way to put
like,
it.
He's not a little guy. Like, he's got a good sturdy frame on him. He's clearly bigger and broader than Baker is. I mean, there's no question about that. Just for OU fans that can kind of have some comparison in their mind. But it's funny because, to the kid's credit, he's gotten better all year long. When I saw him in the summer, I was not really sure what OU was doing there. I thought they'd kind of reached on somebody. Then I saw him against Cedar Ridge, and he was better.
Didn't you first see him like at a 7-on-7 event?
Yep. And I think we talked about this last week. I walked away from that, and I know Eddie and I talked about it when Eddie saw the film when he was uploading the interview that we did. It was right after he'd committed, actually. And we were both kind of like, that's the guy? This is the answer at quarterback? Well, okay. And, at that time they were really close to getting Spencer Rattler, and you thought, well, he can keep the seat warm until Rattler's ready to go, I guess.
But isn't that the history, though?
Eddie saw him. He was awesome.
Isn't that the history at Oklahoma, though? I mean, what big-time, surefire recruit has come in and just been wow?
And actually done what he was supposed to do?
Yeah.
Yep.
Probably Mixon.
Well, Bomar screwed it up for himself.
Or are you talking about quarterback?
Quarterback, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Sam wasn't that guy. Hypo wasn't that guy.
You know who you'd probably go all the way back to?
Jason White was probably the most highly regarded guy.
Guys, would it be Cale Gundy?
Yeah, it would be.
Going all the way back. I mean, the guy that had a really good career at OU and, was a big-time recruit.
I mean, Rhett Bomar was probably going to be that guy, but
yeah,
he
was on his
decided
way.
to sell cars.
He didn't sell cars. He just decided
He
not
just
to
didn't
show
wash
up
them.
to work to wash them, yeah. And get paid for it. Jesus. But yeah, I mean Spencer Rattler would be the first
Yep.
in the modern era to be a highly ranked quarterback that came in and became a star. It became what he was supposed to be.
It doesn't happen
So
very
that's
much.
why I'm kind of like putting my weight behind Tanner Mordecai as the next great quarterback at Oklahoma.
Well, it's going to be interesting. It's even more interesting too that he's not an early enrollee. It kind of breaks a streak.
Yeah.
Of quarterbacks coming in early, and I think that it's going to be really interesting to see what happens during the spring, just as far as how the quarterback competition plays out.
I think
there's a good chance that Austin Kendall's. I mean,
yeah, no.
Do you think Austin Kendall is on the OU football team at the beginning of 2018?
No, I mean it's funny. What was really kind of funny and just I don't know. It wasn't cool, but. You saw the Chris Robinson thing where he put up the FAU thing and they got a countdown clock for the Oklahoma game next year.
Oh, yeah.
And
I know where you're going with this.
Baker commented to Kyler Murray and said,
Yeah.
I can't wait to watch this next year. Like, he didn't do it, Kyler Murray and Austin Kendall. Like,
Well,
even Baker knows that Kyler Murray's going to be the quarterback.
And that kind of goes back into something weird that we kind of discovered after the Big 12 championship game was the fact that Austin Kendall didn't even suit out for that game.
Yeah, he was sitting in the stands.
So perhaps there's something. Perhaps he's already made a decision.
I definitely think from some things that I've heard that his family has been, going through some back channels and just preparing themselves,
Well,
which is smart. I mean,
yeah.
that's just
you have
just
to
doing what you have to do, what you should do.
If that happens,
but
guys,
if that happens, then Tanner Mordecai is your only other backup scholarship quarterback,
and he got on campus in June.
Yeah.
It's going to be.
And Kyler Murray's 5'9" and 185 pounds.
And he runs the ball.
Yep.
A lot.
That's scary.
It's going to be the Tanner Schaefer show.
Yeah. No, it will be the Tanner Mordecai True Freshman show. I don't know. They might.
I don't know.
Yeah, I bet Tanner Schaefer, if push came to shove, he could do something.
I get the impression they like. I mean, as walk-on quarterbacks go, that they like him.
They have a good track record with walk-on quarterbacks right now in Norman.
Our next Baker. Here he
Really,
is.
walk-ons in general.
Yeah.
Like, and we don't see it, but when's the last time that you saw a walk-on at Oklahoma and you're just like, oh, it's embarrassing for OU to have that kid on their team? Because, Lee Morris has scored 2 touchdowns. Miles Teese scored a touchdown against Ohio State.
Eric Rinn starting at center.
Eric Rinn starting at center.
I could think of
You've
a few
had Aaron
linebackers.
Ripkowski. Well, but Caleb Gastelum played at least. And held his own a little bit. He shouldn't have been out there.
Yeah, I think it was more they shouldn't have had to be in that situation.
Okay, so this is really weird. We had to stop the podcast like twice now. So we stopped the podcast, and now we're back again because we had a situation occur where I guess a Louisville writer is reported that Nik Bonnito signed with Oklahoma, and Josh has had to address it on the board. And Josh, you did a good job of addressing it with the report out there that there was a signature from Bonnito to Oklahoma on signing day. Just tell everybody kind of, how you address this or how you are addressing this.
Yeah, like you said, the Louisville 24/7 site has reported that Nik Bonnito, kind of outside linebacker edge guy that Oklahoma had pursued from St. Thomas Aquinas in South Florida, that he has signed with Oklahoma. Actually signed with them, I guess, earlier on Wednesday. I'm not going to go so far as to confirm that report just because I know the kid wants to announce his intentions at the Under Armour All-American game on January 4th. I'm one of those guys. I know sometimes, fans hate it because they feel like I should just go ahead and go forth with these things. But the way that you develop relationships and the way that you keep, your sources happy is you have to take care of them. And in this case, I've been told certain things, and I don't want to ruin anybody's moment. I don't want to hurt the kid this is clearly going to be the biggest moment in his young life, is to make this announcement on national television. And, I guess I could get into, I think it was a little sloppy by the reporter that's done this, but these things happen. I've probably been on the other end of it and done someone wrong like that and didn't mean to. So maybe it's just an honest mistake. But regardless, I think Oklahoma has every reason to feel really, really good about Nik Bonnito. I think Oklahoma fans should be watching on January 4th. As a guy that came down, really, in my opinion, to Oklahoma, Texas, and Louisville. It's a very good signing. And another one of those guys we always talk about, Oklahoma used to do so well at Gorman, and now Gorman's just a major program. I don't know that you get a lot more at the pinnacle of high school football than St. Thomas Aquinas. I mean, this is where the best of the best in South Florida play. For 50 years, St. Thomas Aquinas has been turning out huge talent. Michael Irvin's a St. Thomas Aquinas product. You go down the list. I mean, they've got a lot of NFL Hall of Famers among their alumni. So for Oklahoma to go in there, get a guy to school, they've tried to sign guys at St. Thomas Aquinas for years. And if they can land him and it becomes finalized, then Oklahoma, that opens the door for them in the future. And I think is, again, so it's not just about how good Bonnito is, which he's a very good edge rusher, but you also start to develop a relationship and a rapport at a major program.
Let's talk about what else is out there too. Obviously, Brennan Radley-Hiles, a guy that is going to enroll mid-semester. His mother announced that he wasn't going to sign with anybody during the early period. Also interesting to note is right before we did this podcast, Trae Brown announced that he would not be signing anything today. And, of course, today is the last day of the early signing period. But first, let's start with Hiles. Josh, just kind of update, because let's go over some of these targets that are left for Oklahoma now that the early signing period is over.
Well, in Brennan Radley-Hiles, I think, if I'm not mistaken, our number 17 overall player in the country, and the number 4 corner in the entire country, IMG product, good friends with TJ Pledger, who signed on Wednesday, and a guy that, if you'd have told me 2 months ago this guy was picking Oklahoma, I'd laughed at you. It's amazing how quickly this has turned around, but he's a guy that's going to announce his decision at the Army All-American game, which I'll be there for, and is a guy that I think Oklahoma clearly leads for. When I talk to people that have either been around him or talked to sources at the schools he's visited, Clemson, Florida State, UCLA, there is clearly a feeling amongst those schools that Oklahoma is a school they're trying to catch. And for that to be the case, that just amazes me. But, yeah, I think Oklahoma's in a great spot. He'll announce on January 6th at the All-American game in the Army All-American game in San Antonio. So that's a huge one and would be one of Oklahoma's most highly rated commitments in years as the number 17 guy in the country.
Okay, so you've also got Deshaun White that is out there, named that a lot of people know. Linebacker out of North Richland Hills, was committed to Texas A&M for a long time. Texas A&M, and Oklahoma have really been chasing this kid down. Would that kind of be the next guy on the list for OU fans to pin their hopes on?
I think so, because it's clear that Oklahoma has made him such a priority that they're really kind of passing on other linebackers so that they make sure they have a spot for Deshaun White. And it's a gamble. I mean, there's no question that this is an interesting situation, because I know, talking to some people, there was some feeling that if Oklahoma had really wanted to push for went and landed him. I don't know that that's the case, but there is some belief out there that would have been so. And Oklahoma would have taken his signature. I don't want that to get misunderstood. They would have accepted his letter of intent. They sent him one, but from what I can understand, in the last 24 hours, Oklahoma did not speak to Delhi even once. So
that was such a weird deal. I mean, for him to take all that time and to do it at night, and then to just re-sign or recommit and then sign with Texas, it makes you wonder how many other schools were just kind of like backing off a little bit.
It is interesting, because, I mean, the only other school that was really making a run was Illinois, which has, under Lovie Smith, kind of actually signed in some good players. They've got several guys from IMG. They're having a pretty nice little early signing period.
They've rallied, for sure.
Yeah. Yep. There's a lot to be understood about that. I mean, Lovie Smith's a guy, coached in the Super Bowl, was a respected NFL coach. Wasn't like some dude that just couldn't hack it at that level. And is always struck me as pretty likable and pretty personable. So, but that's another thing altogether. But again, to the point I'm trying to make, they've really put a lot of eggs into Deshaun White's basket. So if that doesn't work out, Oklahoma has to have another linebacker. I think they need two, but clearly they're of the opinion they need one. And if that's the case, and they don't get White and he sticks with A&M or he ends up going to Texas, whatever the case may be, that's a huge hit for OU. That's a real problem. But I will say at this point in time, I think Oklahoma is clearly the leader for Deshaun White. I think they have to convince Mom that Oklahoma is the right choice. Now, the thing I can't gather is I had the impression that maybe Deshaun would have signed with Oklahoma on Wednesday. His mother didn't want him to. I don't know if that's a case of she didn't want him to sign with anybody in the early period, like we've seen with some families.
Okay,
some coaches.
Wait, that's your speculation, or that's what you think happened, or that's what you're saying?
No. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if she didn't want him to sign anywhere, or if she just didn't want him to sign with Oklahoma. So I don't know that case. So I don't know whether to read into that or whether to not make anything out of that. That's kind of the weird scenario in this. I don't know why, but I do know she did not want him to sign on Wednesday.
How much? I don't know. I just, how much convincing do you have to do? How much more convincing do you have to do? They're playing in the college football playoff. They had the freshman linebacker of the conference, or the defensive player of the year.
That it helps a place like Georgia so much. In Oklahoma, it doesn't seem to as much.
I just don't know. At some point, if I was just a coach, I'd just be like, if you don't want to come here, don't come. F you, pretty much.
Well, this is what it was like. Guys, you remember with Anthony Hines last year.
I know.
Anthony Hines probably visited Oklahoma 12 times.
He visited everywhere 12 times.
Well, no, and that's the case. And you're right, Carey. At some point, you've seen what's here to see. You know our people. You know the players. You know the depth chart. And you know it at all the other schools. What are you waiting for?
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make sense. It seems like in that type of situation, when you have to keep, I guess, proving yourself, it's like the kid's looking for reasons not to go there.
But you know what? You could almost say it's the exact opposite for Bobby Brown, in that his mom wants him to go to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And he would rather go somewhere else. Josh, I have to think him delaying any announcement or signing today is good for Oklahoma, is it not?
I think it absolutely is. Talking to people both at Alabama and around Norman, I got a distinct impression that everybody believed he was going to sign with Alabama today if he signed. So it bought Oklahoma a little reprieve. My whole thing is, does it matter? Because to me, this feels like this also buys A&M another 6 weeks to kind of, hey, we're good, everything's good, come back with us. You know College Station, you know a lot of the guys in this class. We want you to be part of this.
All right, we had a little another podcast pause, but we're back again. So, Josh, you just got cut off mid-sentence again because of kids or dogs or whatever. I'm not sure what's going on. I heard a finger snap, and then we stopped taping, and now we're back. Here's the thing, here's what you should be scared about. Alabama is like king of, getting kids to go against their mothers. Remember Landon Collins when he made his announcement? I think we were at the Sugar Bowl, weren't we, that year?
No, we were in San Antonio.
That's when
we were watching it together, weren't we?
Leonard Fournette committed when we were at the Sugar Bowl for the OU Alabama game.
I think we were all together when.
Yeah, we were watching it somewhere, but remember,
it was at the Under Armour game. We were in San Antonio.
His mother, was just like, LSU is number one.
Yeah, my son is not going there, but we're not going to be cheering for him.
That's right. We had those two adjoining rooms.
Yeah.
So we just had the door open, and we were watching the two different rooms. That's right. I remember that now. Yeah, there's no question. I mean, and I think there's no question what Alabama is using against Oklahoma. They're using their track record of NFL defensive linemen and the fact that Oklahoma just doesn't have any right now.
Yeah.
So, Gerald McCoy is the one guy, and Gerald McCoy is closer to having played with Calvin Thibodeau than he was coached by him. So,
Stacey McGee getting no love.
Yeah, but and that's
Jordan Phillips.
That's the thing. It's even though Stacey McGee has probably had a better career than several of Alabama's first-round draft picks on the defensive line, it doesn't matter because he's not the big name. He didn't get to claim an Outland trophy or something like all these Alabama guys get to do. So it ends up not mattering, even if that's the reality versus whatever the yarn they're spinning is.
Yeah, but Alabama's getting all the 5 stars. Of course they're going to produce better players. It's not just
of course they leave that out of their sales pitch.
Yeah, that's the whole thing that's so stupid about it. It's like, it's just like, if you take their 5-star percent, the percentage of their 5 stars that go on and become first-round picks, it's probably the worst in the nation because they've had more 5 stars to not go first round than anybody in the history of college football.
Exactly. When your 2 deep is 4 and 5, rivals 100 almost exclusively. That's just crazy. Your numbers are going to work out, and that's the thing. It's like OU claiming Adrian Peterson. If Adrian Peterson kept his knees in the right place, Adrian Peterson was going to be a first-round draft pick. There was no way that was going to go any other way. Those guys are just that special. But that doesn't matter to these kids. That's not how they see it because they just see those kids as peers. Well, I'm as good as those guys, so all I have to do is go to Alabama, and I'm going to be a first-round pick too. And they forget how many dudes have done nothing while at Alabama, even though they were highly recruited as well.
Okay, so Bonnito we talked about, Deshaun White, Brennan Radley-Hiles, Bobby Brown. Anybody else out there, Josh, that you think OU is at least, let's say highly ranked guys that OU is really going to be focusing on over this next month and a half?
Probably. You could go into guys like Solomon Tuliaupu. God, I don't even know how you say that last name. U is his last.
Yeah, that was in Bob's. I was just so happy that the database found that name and I didn't have to look it up and he spelled it right.
Yeah, that's a monster. But no, you could talk about him, but I don't think OU has any realistic chance there. The guy that is highly ranked that I think OU is truly involved with is Jeremiah Martin from San Bernardino, California, a guy that they offered, I want to say, late October, early November, and they really almost immediately got an official visit. They've been very highly involved with him and have seemed to make a lot of inroads. I think A&M and OU kind of seem like the two schools he really liked. He seems like a guy that wants to get away from Southern California, maybe get away from the Pac-12. And OU has a chance with Martin. The question for me has been for a while is how hard are they pushing him? Because I think they preferred the Abdul Malik McClain kid, and so they were kind of riding it out with him. And really, until USC got serious about him, they looked like they were that they were going to get paid off for working him. But USC gets involved, and it's pretty tough to win in Southern California. But so I think with Martin, he's kind of their next step. What's going to be interesting is just like the Deshaun White thing. Is OU going to hitch their wagon that hard to Trey Brown, who is frankly giving them every reason to walk away? But he just won't kind of ever just say it's going to be Alabama or it's going to be A&M.
Really, that to me, that just shows you exactly how rare defensive tackles are for a program to chase a kid like that, who's, like you said, is giving them every indication to drop him. Like, they just have no other choice but to chase kids like this.
Yeah, I mean, I can flat out tell you that OU knew when they went into Marvin Wilson's last year, they were maybe had a 5% chance at landing Marvin Wilson. And they still went and sent everybody because that 5% chance is almost worth it for a guy of that caliber at that position.
Okay, so I think mainly, we've been about recruiting. We should be. It's early sign day. Hopefully, everybody's happy that this is mainly a recruiting podcast. We did have a little bit of Rose Bowl stuff. Here's the schedule moving forward. Eddie and I are flying out to L.A. Saturday. Josh, you're going to be covering Monday. What did I say? Saturday?
Jesus,
Monday. I don't know what day it is right now. Okay, it's that kind of week. You're hungover. Josh is having babies. I've been here.
I might not be around on Monday.
Like dead.
Yeah.
Suicide. Eddie,
Why, you got another party tonight?
There's I've at 9:30 this morning. I told myself I'm probably not drinking ever again.
That's how that
Starting
usually
to feel
goes.
a little bit better though. It's 2:00.
And you know of a party going on tonight, I'm sure.
I'm sure a lot of people coming in town. Friday's a big night.
So let's just go ahead and pencil you in for hammered drunk again tonight.
Probably so, but I'll be in Norman until at least 8.
Yeah,
going to the basketball game.
Yeah.
So
got the Trae Young show tonight against the real team, Northwestern.
Yeah. See if Elaine will be there. Elaine Bennis.
Yeah.
Her son's on the team.
Yeah.
Anybody want to take a stab at his numbers tonight? Just take a bold guess.
Probably guessing Charlie Hall does not get in the game.
Yeah, I'm guessing he doesn't. I think he got some points in the last game.
Scored his first point.
Yeah.
And he took a picture like Wilt Chamberlain with a sign that just had one.
That was
on
amazing.
Did he have the net in his hand?
No, he just had like a
down?
locker room pick. It was pretty funny.
It was.
No, she really is. Like Julie Louis-Dreyfus, she is really into it, and her husband is there too.
They're Northwestern grads, I think.
I think that's right. Yeah. Of course, Chris Collins is the coach, right?
Yeah.
Doug Collins' son.
Yeah.
And they were Cinderellas last year. They're kind of. I think they've lost 4 games so far this year, though.
Yeah, they're not as good as they were last year,
disappointing.
But still a good Big Ten competition.
It's a team that could get OU into the top 15 easily.
Yeah, you can see that.
A win over Northwest
For sure.
I find, like that 22 assist game that Trae Young had. I don't know that I've ever seen anything like Trae Young. I mean, we've seen Blake Griffin, we've seen Buddy Hield. I grew up watching Stacey King, and Mookie Blaylock was a guy kind of his own. He was a defensive guy. He was a shooter, but they've never had a floor general like this.
No, he's just so much better than everybody.
And he shoots.
And it's cliche to say, but he makes everybody so much better.
He does. I mean,
It's
Jamani
insane.
McNeese is like all Big 12 the way he's playing and the way that he's getting him opportunities.
Brady Manick's having like one of the best freshman years ever, and it's not ever, but he's having a really good freshman year.
He's one of the best freshmen in the last 20 years.
Yeah, and it's not even like he's just an afterthought with what Trae's doing. And that's no slight
could be so
to Brady,
good, man.
but
He could be
it's
so
insane.
good.
How scary is it that they still haven't even had one of their 2 best players from last year on the floor yet?
Yeah, they're just getting Doolittle back into the rotation, and
We play 7 minutes.
yeah, he didn't play that much on
Which Lon said he was going to play between
Tuesday.
5 and 10. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see Doolittle get involved again. Cam Auguste, if he continues to keep coming, I mean, this team could be really good.
Yeah.
I mean, the Big 12 is going to be brutal. But Oklahoma, to me, and I don't know what to... I mean, you've got to think Kansas is going to come around at some point. But, I mean, who's the best team in the Big 12 if it's not Kansas?
I don't think I'm a buyer in TCU yet. I mean, they're better. But
Iowa State lost their first 2 and haven't lost since, I don't think.
yeah, I think they're gonna finish probably in the bottom half of the league. I think Texas, when they're playing well, I mean,
They've got a lot
seen
of players. Yeah.
they have some talent, but it seems like it's the same thing.
All their games, no matter who they play, they only win by 2.
Yeah, and they scored 46 points the other night and won against East Tennessee State. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. The Big 12 is about as wide open. I feel like we say this every year, and then Kansas ends up winning the league.
It's just like OU football.
Yeah, it really is.
It's like next year, everybody's trying to figure out who's going to be the favorite next year.
West Virginia.
Well, oh yeah, but West Virginia sucks. They got Greer coming back, they got Sills coming back, but West Virginia, like, have you ever seen West Virginia finish the season strong?
No.
They are the biggest. They and Oklahoma State are the biggest faders.
Yeah, it happens every year.
And Oklahoma State's mainly on defense. But,
OSU.
But like you run through all the teams in the conference, and even though they don't have Baker Mayfield, like Oklahoma, you just have faith that they're going to be good. That they're going to be. You have faith that Oklahoma is going to be, a playoff caliber type team. TCU is one of those teams, like, they could fall off the face of the earth.
As soon as Gary Patterson leaves, they will.
Well, the 2 games that Oklahoma probably loses without Baker Mayfield, Oklahoma State and Texas.
Yes.
And, I mean, Oklahoma State loses Mason Rudolph. They're going to be scrambling. I'm going to bet that OU is still going to be in better shape than them next year with Kyler Murray, who's, you kind of know that's the guy. Plus, I like OU's personnel outside of him. OU doesn't lose their best receiver. They don't lose a lot of the Oklahoma State loses a huge chunk of their offensive line. So, there's a lot there that's going to have to be replaced. And then with Texas,
They still don't have an offensive line at Texas, though.
They don't have an offensive line. They lose their best defender by a mile. They'll be good in the secondary. Their defensive line will be good again. But, I mean, I think if Texas showed a lot of improvement, at best, they're a coin flip.
Josh, they lost their punter, though. They're doomed. That's why you don't recruit Australian punters. I know it's cool and you got a good punter, but I mean, maybe they can just keep getting Australians, but they don't give a shit. Like, they're like, oh, I can go pro. I'm not staying in college. Why do I need to be in college in America? Mm-hmm. Like an Australian is going to leave you. If he's that good.
Ladies, Carey's teaching a lesson out there too, okay? Don't trust the Aussies.
Don't buy into their oi, oi, oi stuff. Aussie, oi, oi, oi. Yeah, that's
just criminal English people. That's all Australians are.
Well, okay.
It's fact.
No, that was set up to be a prison. Yes, you're right. They're past that, though.
I don't think.
That was like in the 1600s.
I don't think there are any Australian OU fans that we can piss off.
What do you think Hugh Jackman's ancestor did to get him over there?
Terrorism.
Yeah. Guy Fawkes. I got you.
What about Keith Urban's wife? Or she's not. Is she Australian?
No, Keith Urban's Australian.
Keith Urban's Australian, but she's
English, I think.
Are you sure?
Who's his wife?
Kidman.
Nicole Kidman.
No, she's definitely Australian.
Yeah, she's Australian.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she and Hugh Jackman did that awful Australia movie together.
That they did.
And then she had that really just gloriously horrific Irish accent in Far and Away, which I love.
Australia was one of the moments that I realized I can be fooled by a trailer. As cynical as I can be, I didn't know it was going to be a musical. I had no idea. I went there with a buddy of mine thinking we were going to see a cool movie about Australia. And we're like halfway through, we're like, what the hell just happened?
Are you two going to go to this P.T. Barnum show together too now? You know what I'm talking about? The world's greatest showman or whatever?
Like, it's yes. Unless Jackman has blades coming out of his hand, I will see nothing he's involved with because of Australia. He has wounded me.
I started watching Logan last night and it bored the shit out of me. Everybody said how great a movie it was.
You didn't like? Oh, I thought Logan was great. I thought Logan was really, really good.
I was tired though. It was the end of the day. I think I fell asleep before it could end.
Okay. Yeah. It was just like more than a lot of the other ones, like it felt like the most real, like a lot of how they've done more. No, and more. It was
more gritty. Yeah.
Yeah, they've done more of these comic books like that lately, where it's not like just flashy and they're just killing people all the time. It's it's real people doing real stuff, but they have superpowers.
Which is weird because Guardians of the Galaxy is taking Marvel like more cartoony.
Yep, they are.
And because Thor Ragnarok was more, I haven't seen that yet, but it was supposed to be in the same shot in the same style as that.
It was a little more campy for sure.
And now the Civil War thing comes out, and then you got Josh Brolin as, what's the purple dude's name?
Thanos. Yeah. I'm
ruining
jacked
Eddie's
about that
world
'cause he's
right
going to be a kick-ass bad guy.
Losers.
But
it's too CGI. I'm worried that it's going to be too much CGI.
yeah, we'll see. I'm just ready for the next. Ryan Reynolds.
Deadpool 2.
I kept wanting to say Daredevil. I'm like, that's not right. I did not need
Deadpool's
another
really
Daredevil.
good. Yeah.
So I love Deadpool.
All right, Rodney Anderson, we got a chance to talk to him. Let me get Eddie engaged back in this thing before we get out of here. Had a chance to catch up with Rodney Anderson. What day was that? Was that Wednesday? Yeah,
Yes.
that was Wednesday. To just kind of get his thoughts on how everything was going. We're not really in here to rip on the girl or anything. I'm sure Eddie will say something awful, but
We can if we want.
Here's
She's a
Rodney,
bitch.
Here's Rodney Anderson.
Rodney, can you talk about just what last month's been like for you and how relieved you are just to be back out on a football field again?
It's been a crazy month, but God's got me through it all, and to help my family, my hometown's been great. So, it just feels amazing to be back out here with my team. Getting started with things, and I'm just very, very blessed to be where I'm at.
I know the coaches were mainly out on the recruiting trail, but it seemed like you had a lot of support from your teammates. What was that like for you?
It was very comforting to know that my team was behind me and they supported me. When you got friends like that, there's not really anything that can get in your way. So I was very blessed to have them.
And I'm going to say this, I saw somebody comment on the board. I didn't want to say anything, but it went on for 4 minutes, and I thought, okay, we got to get some football in here sometimes, because I think the thing was Houck came in and he said he's only got a couple minutes.
Yeah.
And it went on for, 12 minutes, 14 minutes or something. And it was mainly all about the rape allegations and stuff. And people were like, oh, just let it go. But my thought was, no, you don't let it go. You were the people, the fans, were the ones saying, if he didn't do this, you need to report it just as strongly that he didn't do it. So for him to sit there for 10 minutes and just get peppered with questions about it, as long as that's what's showing up out there, like, hey, I'm innocent, my life is moving on, I don't have any worries, I think that's what needed to happen. And getting that out of the way, the local media, I'm sure he'll get some national media questions about it, especially on media day. They probably won't make him available until they have to on media day, but I'm sure some people will ask him about that. And it's just something that had to happen. He had to not face the music because he didn't do anything wrong, but he needed to be able to kind of have that moment where he spoke openly as much as he could to the media.
He handled it with a lot more class than I would have.
What would you have?
That's not news.
What? Yeah, that's not news at all.
I would.
But what was your breaking point though? What didn't you like?
I didn't. What do you mean?
Like, you're saying that you would have lost it. You would have flown off the handle.
Oh, I would have.
What would you have flown off the handle at?
I would try and ruin that woman's life.
Oh, you mean you would go after her in the public?
Yeah. Absolutely.
To the press.
Absolutely. He tried to ruin. I mean, she pretty much tried to ruin his life.
Yeah. It's unfortunate.
Like, I would try and make it to where she wouldn't wake up every day with. I wouldn't kill her, but I would try to make it.
So you would barb wire her to a mattress or something?
I would try to make her life ruined. Yeah.
There's really
nothing. Going straight 7 on everybody.
There's really nothing that he can do about this. I mean,
she's crazy.
I think that's accurate. He could go after her in some type of a civil suit, but man, if she is that nuts, why bother? I didn't go through it, so I don't know.
I guess you can say how you would act, but you'd never know until it happens.
I'm sure he's just so relieved and happy to know that his life is not over and his football career is not over.
Yeah.
But yeah, you think about it, that's one of those things that if she was doing it to make up with an ex-boyfriend or to gain some kind of leverage socially or professionally, it's just what an idiot human being.
Yeah, the whole situation was just really screwed up.
But Greg Mashburn, the district attorney, was asked about it. Like, can you file charges against her? And basically, just as there was not enough evidence to file charges against him, there was not enough evidence to say that she was, without a doubt, filing a false report.
Right.
So you just kind of stuck. And it does, to me, what I think about is the people that really, the women out there that really are assaulted sexually or raped, and, how much it hurts them to be able to come out and report that when someone like this does, tries to use it like a game or turn it into a game. That's the worst thing that
was the worst outcome of this whole thing.
Yeah. But and he was asked, "Are you going to do anything? Do you think this will affect you in other ways?" And he said, "No. He's moving past it." And
he probably is. I mean, it seems like if there was one guy on this team that could handle something like this, it's probably Rodney Anderson. Seems like a very strong character guy.
And I'm sure, he'll be out on the weekends, and he is never going to want to mess with a woman that is intoxicated ever again in his life.
Just got to be careful. All those guys do. I mean, just not in Norman either. It's everywhere across the country for college football, or just college athletes.
Notable people.
College kids, just all in general. Not even athletes.
Because everybody always makes it, like they'll talk about the bad examples of athletes acting badly. I mean, that happens. I mean, let's not make them out to be always the innocent, because it's certainly not the case. But you guys are right. I mean, in a lot of cases, they're targets. I mean, there are women that is their entire purpose is to try and go find a football player or a basketball player or whatever. Can you guys imagine Trae Young's life right now?
Like if he had been accused?
I mean, who is he going to trust?
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
What girl is that girl cares about me rather than I'm Trae Young and I'm
going to be a first round.
I'm pretty sure he has a girlfriend.
Does he?
Yeah, long time one from Norman.
Eddie, I can always trust you to know. You knew about the Baker situation. I mean, you knew how he was doing.
Been told that I think he's dating a OU Palm girl.
Okay.
Oh.
Trae Young though he's always seemed like he's had a pretty tight circle, just with the way that his recruitment went down. Everybody tried to get in on him early.
I think Rayford's kept a pretty... I mean, as much as Rayford's had a hard time keeping a level head at times, he's raised Trae to have a pretty level head.
Yeah. And, I mean, Trae's parents, they're really good. They're on top of it.
And I say that. I mean, I don't think Rayford's really done anything that's that insane, just through the recruiting process. The whole Clay Horning thing,
Well, Clay Horning wrote a dumbass article.
I know, but, to say this is why I'm going to move my kid out of this place.
Yeah.
That was just a father losing his mind a little bit.
Yeah, I think any good dad probably would have acted the same way.
I don't care. I mean, I don't care enough to rip on Clay.
I will if you want me to.
The man for the job.
I want less hassle in my life.
He's kind of a loser.
That's my goal. I'm speechless. You seem like you're doing better.
I'm starting to feel a little bit better.
Eddie just needed a chance to touch some shit on some people.
The color is coming back in your face.
It's good.
So no voicemails today. I know Firecracker Farts called in something. I haven't even bothered to look, but I know people are kind of torn on the voicemail thing, I think the main thing is they just need to be good. Like really good.
Well, and I think everybody's going for comedy. You can go and just talk about something. It doesn't have to be.
Actually, that's boring. No, you can't.
Oh, well, they can let us do that. Don't steal our thunder. So.
Oh, but if you're funny, you're funny.
No, and that's fine. But I'm saying, you guys know how that is, and I mean.
I'm just saying, be creative. There's a
lot of people in the world that think they're funny. Yeah.
I'm just saying. I don't even know if we'll even bring it back, but people really aren't listening to the podcast for a random dude's take.
Fair enough.
They just aren't.
And I want to say, if you're going to do the random take, make it short.
And that's the other thing.
Seconds.
3-minute random takes from a dude in Enid.
Glenpool.
Yeah, nobody's really interested.
Yeah.
Not on this podcast. Maybe on lesser podcasts. So anyway. By
guys,
the way,
hang on. Am I mistaken, or this is the last pod before the game is actually played, right?
Yeah, I don't know how we're gonna. We
might try and do one next week.
Yeah,
maybe.
we're gonna. I'm gonna have equipment. With us, so we're gonna.
We got to talk it if it is.
We're gonna try and put together a podcast. Josh, it'll probably be your last podcast because I don't know if there's any way for us to get you involved.
That's fine.
While we're on the road.
So
but I don't know. We'll have to do maybe like a immediate U.S. Army podcast when we get back or something.
Yeah.
So a post check-in Now, when is check-in for the Army?
It's New Year's Eve.
So
it's December 31st. Yep. So and the game is the 6th. The Under Armour game, which we've already talked about, Nik Bonnito, is the 4th, and there's somebody else in the Under Armour game, and I'm going to go blank on it. I need to actually work on the site and put out a list of all the guys.
It's not Leon O'Neal, is it?
Is Leon Under Armour? No, Leon's Army. Leon's Army for sure. The Army thing, it's insane how many OU guys are going to be down there. I'm going to be really busy all week with tracking all those guys.
Well, we're going to figure out, if Bob's going to go down there. If the national championship game happens, then we're kind of back here and then back out. We may end up driving to Atlanta. I don't know, just so we can all go. But Eddie and I are going out to L.A. It's kind of just the way it got planned, so we'll kind of figure out what Bob's going to be doing. I'd like for him to be down in San Antonio, but that's more of a budget meeting kind of thing. So, but anyway, Josh, do you want to talk some Rose Bowl or some Georgia before we get out of here?
Oh, I mean, we don't have. I honestly, I haven't even
just
gotten
your
into my
thoughts
under the
or
hood
whatever.
stuff.
Yeah.
So I'll for everybody listening, we'll have under the hood. I'm going to go over 2 games of Georgia's and really try to do the big breakdown we always do for the big games. So it should be interesting. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know about how you guys feel, but it's interesting to me that almost everybody I listen to that is picking Georgia in this game is in the Southeast, and almost everyone else seems to be picking Oklahoma.
OU's just lucky that they're allowed to be on the same field with an SEC team, Josh.
OU's not seen anything like Georgia. Well, the thing that's amazing to me is I keep hearing that OU hasn't seen anything like Georgia, but I've yet to hear Georgia hasn't seen anything like Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Like, you can't have that both ways. And
Notre
I feel like
Dame was
OU's seen a lot closer facsimile to what Georgia can do defensively in Ohio State than Georgia has seen. What offense in the SEC looks anything like what OU is doing?
Well, the one that destroyed them, Auburn.
Yeah. And even that, I mean, Jarrett Stidham is no Baker Mayfield.
And their offensive line, I don't care what awards they came up for, they're not good.
No, well, and they're certainly not on Oklahoma's level.
No. Talking to players, it sounded like Missouri is the most comparable offense that.
Well, and they're running. I didn't realize this. I think I tweeted you guys or texted you guys about this. I never realized that Josh Heupel was running the Art Briles offense in Missouri, because what happened was Joe John Finley came up to Missouri and kind of brought that offense with him, and that's what they ran. And I know there was some talk about OU bringing. There were some rumors out there about OU bringing a defensive assistant, and I'll just say this: it would be somebody that's a GA. It would not be like UCF. It's kind of like Chad Morris. Have you seen all the crap kind of out there, all the bickering? I think Van Malone started it because Chad Morris left most of his staff at SMU because once he went to Arkansas, he could hire a better staff. He could spend more money. So, like, Josh Heupel can't spend very much money at UCF. It's just like being at SMU. Like, so he can't out-hire Oklahoma for an assistant. They'll just stay at Oklahoma. And look, even Tim Kish, I understand people are like, oh, get Tim Kish to UCF with Josh Heupel. Tim Kish would never leave OU to go to UCF for like half the money, if that.
I think I would guess UCF can't play their DC what OU plays Kish.
I think that's probably right. So it's going to be somebody that needs a full-time job that's getting ready, like Jamarcus McFarland would be my guess. It's not going to be Marcus Walker because they hired a cornerback coach.
Hey, interestingly enough, I got to looking at that. Missouri put up 21 on Georgia in the first half and then got so far behind they clearly were just having to.
It was like 42-28 or something was the final.
Yeah, it was 34-21 at half. I mean, it wasn't like – and then Georgia went off, scored 13 and made it kind of – So
and that's just running verticals, with guys spread out on the sideline.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. like I said, I don't get me wrong. Georgia is fully capable of winning this game. There's no question about it. But just this idea that OU they're not ready. They don't know. A couple years ago, I kind of got it because Oklahoma was not good enough up front against Clemson to win that game.
No.
I don't believe that right now.
Well, I mean, those guys, the reason OU's line is so good right now because all those guys were freshmen in 2015.
Yeah.
Orlando and Drew
played in
Samia.
that game. Yep.
Yeah. And Ty Darlington was the center, and I think Eric Wren's a better center than Ty Darlington was.
Especially for that kind of scenario. Wren's bigger, stronger. He can hold up a little better. I think Darlington got shoved around a little bit that night.
Was Cody Ford in that game? I don't think he was.
No. Oh, heck no. Cody was.
It would have
Still
been
in high school, wasn't he?
It would have been. God, who would have been the starting guards?
Let's see.
Against Clemson?
2015. I could go back and look it up, but I'm trying to think who it would be.
Let's see. I'm
Samia
pulling it up
as a
right now.
freshman?
Give me just a second.
Well, Samia, he was the right tackle, I believe, that year.
Yeah, he would have been the starting right tackle.
It was
You'd have
Alvarez.
Orlando.
Alvarez was one of the guards, I bet.
Oh, God. Casatati.
Oh, Neela Casatati.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it was Neela. Yep. So you had Neela and Alvarez as your guards. Darlington is your center. Right tackle, true freshman Drew Samia. Left tackle, redshirt freshman Orlando Brown.
That was no match for that defense. Which that defensive line for Clemson is better than the defensive line they have now, even though now it's fantastic.
Let's see. Okay, so you'd have, in that five, who would be your best offensive lineman? Neela?
Then, the moment they played, Neela. But he wasn't that great. I mean, he wasn't anywhere near what Ben Powers or Cody Ford or Drew Samia at guard have been.
Would he be your sixth best right now?
Neela Casatati couldn't play for this line right now.
That's what I'm saying. Like he'd be seven. I'd still take Cody Ford over him.
Yeah.
He wouldn't even be in my top three guards.
Neela was the most. He was the biggest mystery to me. Like, great frame, but remember when he went to the combine and he
tore it up?
No.
Oh, he didn't.
He could barely lift.
That's right. Yeah.
Like he did it like 8 or 9 times. Like there
Something
were wide
really
receivers that that lifted it more than he did.
It was weird.
And who ever heard of a poly guy that lacked for strength and physicality?
Yeah, he did.
He's the only one I can ever think of that I was like, he's kind of soft.
He had a weird medical thing go on with him when he was there too.
Okay, well, I didn't know about that, so that's fair.
I think Eddie knows what it is, so he's smiling.
Insane.
That will never be talked about again. But yeah, I mean this offensive line versus that defense, that's the matchup of the game. And then their their offensive line against OU's defensive line. I mean, it's all in the trenches. I mean, and like we've said, I trust Mike Stoops, or I've said this, I trust Mike Stoops. You look at his track record against SEC teams, it's pretty good. When he knows that he's facing a primarily running-based offense, he's pretty good.
Yep, and a pocket quarterback.
Yep.
There's a lot that adds up for this to be a good game for Mike Stoops. Now, it's just going to be about, like you said, I think it's the ends. I think Lampkin and Overton will be fine in the middle. I think Gallimore, Bledsoe, Ward, those guys need to have really good nights. That's what, to me, it's what it's going to come down to.
Gallimore hasn't been healthy for so long. I think he could be a big boost.
Yeah, having that time off to kind of get back to speed.
Can you even play Kenneth Mann in this game?
Oh, you play Kenneth Mann, sir. Sir, I'll hear no other talk.
I love Kenneth Mann, but I'm just saying, as small as he is, I mean,
that's fair. That's a decent point.
If Lampkin is playing and healthy, he's going to have to play a lot of snaps. He needs to do some extra conditioning work.
Yep. That doesn't cost him all that weight that makes him so valuable.
Yeah.
Because him being so huge is a big part of why he's so good.
But no, I mean, Kenneth Murray, Caleb Kelly, Emmanuel Beal, it's on them, man.
Yep.
They're going to have to make some tackles because you get Sony Michel and Nick Chubb into that secondary.
Against Norwood and Motley.
Parker and Johnson, no chance.
Yeah, those guys are 220 and can run. Your linebackers are going to have to make one-on-one tackles. It's going to have to happen.
Or hold on to him.
Yeah, get the legs.
I trust Emmanuel Beal to hold on to a guy for his dear life.
Yeah, he's done a lot of that, so I could buy that.
All right, I think we're good. I appreciate you guys. Josh, I feel horrible for you, man. It's just been the longest, worst week for you.
Yeah, the baby's a week old, and I've gone through all this. This week has been a slow-ass week.
Is Lainey, is she freaking out because she can't see the baby because she's sick?
Kind of. She's really into the baby. Like, she wants to hold her and kiss her and love on her all the time. We're like, you can't be within 6 feet of her right now.
Yeah,
so it's been tough for her. But, I mean, she's been pretty good. Obviously, it's even tougher because she can't really see Tiffany, because Tiffany has to be, germ-free to be around the baby. Yeah. So, like, Tiffany can come see her, and like when she does, she wears like a robe that she takes off immediately when she gets in there to kind of so whatever germ she absorbs, she can kind of get rid of. So it's
Lainey right now
crazy.
Lainey right now is, if this continues much longer, she's going to grow up like with abandonment issues.
Yes, exactly. And we're like, God, could the timing be any worse? The baby's coming home. We want her to still feel like she's loved and all that stuff. And we're going to shun you to this area of the house, and you can't move, and we are going to just have mom spend all the time with the baby. So, yeah, it's been the timing of this has just been perfect on a lot of levels.
All right. Well, hey, want to wish all of our listeners, all of our subscribers, a very happy holiday season. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. See, we're very inclusive at Sooner Scoop, unlike some of our board members who just attack everyone. But we've really loved having Bob Przybylo as a part of the team. He was doing radio today, or I would have asked him to join us for the signing day special. I know he's got his own podcast out there too. So maybe one day we'll all figure it out and come together. But Eddie and I are going to be out in L.A. We're going to try and continue to find a way to podcast while we're out there. So we'll have something for you out in L.A. Probably won't include Josh. I don't want to make any promises. We'll still work on it. So Josh will be covering the All-American games. We'll be out in L.A. covering the Rose Bowl, bringing you plenty of updates. If you're not a member of SoonerScoop.com, go immediately and sign up. It's only $10 a month. Or if you want to save $100 or you want to save some money, sign up for a year subscription. That'll knock 2 months off of your sub.
Carey, we've got a promo running right now.
Yeah, but it only run until the 25th, so I really don't want to say anything about it on the podcast. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. I was like, crap. I wasn't sure. I started not to say anything, and I was like, well, maybe.
And it just started this morning, and because we've been getting ready for the podcast, I really haven't a chance. But there is a promo running. If you're hearing this, go to the site. It's only going to run through Christmas. It's a special. I guess we can say that. It's a great deal if you want to sign up for a year of Sooner Scoop. I'm almost giving the promo away, but I don't want to promise it here. Eddie seems like he has something that he wants to say before.
No, I'm just saying this is our job. This is what we do. It's not a hobby.
Okay.
I'm with Eddie. I don't ask my guy that I don't ask ladies to clean my house to do it for free just because I feel like they should.
I mean, we had one guy that got mad at us yesterday. Yeah, I just ignore all that. If you're mad because you have to pay for content, I'm sorry that we have to have jobs. I'm sorry that we have to pay $5,000 to go cover OU at the Rose Bowl. I'm sorry that we probably have to spend another $3,000 to go pay him. I'm sorry that we have to pay a couple grand to go to the Army All-American game in San Antonio.
It's our job. That's what we do, is cover this team, and I'll put our body of work up against anybody.
And by the way,
and you're a fucking loser if you.
Eddie is getting hydrated.
He's back. Get in that Pedialyte.
I just don't understand how people get upset when they aren't given something for free. I guess that's just the way it is in the world.
Well, even
days.
the people that said we were evil for charging, and they were free, now they're charged. So they figured it out. You can't just work for nothing.
Amazing how that works.
It is.
It's almost like we called that years ago.
By the way, oh God. By the way, and somebody told me that we should tell people this that listen to the podcast, and I guess sometimes you just take things for granted, but literally, myself, Josh, Eddie, Bob, you can, if you pay $10 a month, you have access to us anytime. It's not just on Twitter. I'm kind of coy about answering recruiting questions on Twitter just because we have people that subscribe and we want to protect things with them. We're not just going to give out free inside recruiting information all the time or team information all the time. You can come on the Crimson Corner on the message boards. You can tag us. We have apps. The Sooner Scoop app. If you don't have that, download it. If someone tags me in a thread, I immediately on my phone I get a notification. So and so has tagged you in a thread on SoonerScoop. I go immediately and I answer your question. Like same for Josh, same for Eddie, same for Bob Przybylo. So that's what's people say, why should I pay $10 a month to subscribe to stuff I get for free? No, you don't get access to us for free. You got to pay for it. But we are there all the time answering your questions, even answering your smart ass posts. If you just want to. Somebody wanted to ask about something I said on the radio the other day about my top 3 Christmas movies and if Die Hard should be a Christmas movie. And I'm not getting into that discussion here because everybody, it's like, is a hot dog a sandwich kind of thing. Like, it could go on forever. But those are the kind of things, like, you can have access to us anytime that you want if you're a member of SoonerScoop.com. So go and sign up. Go subscribe. There's a promo running right now. It's only running until Christmas. I won't tell you what it is. You got to go to the website to find out. But it's a really great deal. So, by the way, gang, Josh, Laney, Layla, Tiffany, all you guys, Merry Christmas. Eddie, Edward, Lawrence, Merry Christmas to you, sir.
Thank you.
Although we'll be spending Christmas together in an
I'll
airport.
see you on Christmas.
So, Bob Przybylo, Merry Christmas to you and Brittany, your wife. I just want to say I appreciate all you guys and how hard you work. It was an amazing week covering early signing day for the first time. You guys knocked it out of the park. The content's been fantastic, and it's going to continue to come. So, Rose Bowl coming up, U.S. Army All-American game, Under Armour All-American game, Semper Fi All-American game, all this stuff coming up. The main signing day coming up in February. So there's never been a better time to sign up for SoonerScoop.com. We hope you guys do it. So, for all of us, for Josh McQuistion, for Eddie Radosevich, the less hungover version, here at the end of the podcast.
I'm better now.
Thank you guys for everything that you do. We'll see you next time right back here on the Unofficial 40.
Podcasts from SoonerScoop.com.